And we're live. Great. Welcome everybody for joining us today. So we're just waiting for people to join in. Feel free to let us know in the chat function at the bottom of your screen where you're calling in from today, what city or what country. Don't be shy. Okay. Oh, here we go. Toronto, Montreal. Welcome. Another Montreal. The UK. Hi, welcome. If you're just joining us, we're just welcoming people in and asking to add in the chat where you're joining us from today, what city or what country. Saga, India, Ottawa, New York, Nova Scotia, London, Tennessee, Ottawa, Berlin, Buenos Aires, Sweden, UK, amazing. We're just going to give it another minute to let everybody get in. Istanbul. Hi, Liz, in the Netherlands. Okay, still just lots of people coming into the session. Spain, welcome. Is that a pizza oven? Anouk wants to know, Stephen.
Yeah. But you can bake beans in it as well. You put your Dutch oven in it. Does a really good job, sort of a slow cooker.
This is a fireside chat.
I might have to stop every once in a while to put a log in the fire. So this is Canadian self-isolation.
Okay, so just give it another minute. And the session is being recorded, so if any of your colleagues weren't able to make it, we will be sharing the recording with everybody afterwards. Love your hat, Stephen, from Lisha. Signature.
Gonna wear a hat.
Signature look. Now we've added the oven, the fireplace.
Man, it's like it's Canada, man. It's beautiful today. We have this lovely fluffy snow coming down. We have about 3 or 4 inches of snow,
Yes.
which is really fantastic.
Sure is. Okay, so I know there's still people filing in here, but just to be mindful of everybody's time, I'm going to get started. I'll begin first by saying that the land I'm standing on today in Toronto is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse nations, Inuit and Métis peoples, First Nations. Toronto is built on sacred land that is part of an agreement between Indigenous peoples and allied nations to peacefully and respectfully care for it. The reason I wanted to share this acknowledgement is because, to me, it is evident that the colonial structures used to once settle this land are the same systems that support the exploitation of resources and people in the global fashion industry today. We are so grateful to this month's sponsors, PwC, H&M, and Bank Vogue, as without their support, we would not be able to offer you these webinars for free. I am Kelly Drennan, for those of you who don't know me, and I'm the founding executive director of Fashion Takes Action, Canada's nonprofit industry organization devoted to the advancement of sustainability and circularity in fashion. Our physical wear conference was first held in Toronto in 2014, and now we are enjoying the webinar experience because it allows us to have a much more global audience. What you might not know is that Fashion Takes Action also works with consumers. primarily through our youth education program that to date has been delivered in person to over 20,000 students aged 8 to 17. If you're looking to offer support in any way to our nonprofit, particularly in lieu of corporate gift giving, please consider making a donation, whether it's $5 or $500, to our current crowdfunder that will help us to digitize our school program and allow us to continue to empower students during the pandemic, as well as to reach a global audience. And the link will be shared in the chat. Please also use the chat function to comment and share links, but for any questions that you would like to pose to our guests today, please add those to the Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen. The upvote function is turned on, so if you see someone pose a question that you want answered, simply like it and it will bump it up to the top of the list. This month and next, our WHERE webinar series is focused on circularity. And this month, we will focus on how collaboration is accelerating circularity in 4 really interesting sessions. And please note that you do need to sign up separately for each session that you plan on attending today. The key drivers of circularity in fashion are collaboration, innovation, and transparency. And today, as I mentioned, our focus is on the importance of collaboration. All too often, we approach these systemic issues in a silo and with efforts, however well-intentioned, that aren't really able to address the problems at scale. Can a single policy, however finely crafted, or a social program, however well-run, or a new technology, however innovative, by itself solve fashion's waste problem? We're seeing the rise of cross-sector collaboration, alliances of individuals and organizations from the nonprofit, government, philanthropic, and business sectors that use their diverse perspectives and resources to jointly solve this problem. The main ingredient in determining whether we overcome the many obstacles and seize the opportunity of these times is leadership. We need transformative, collaborative leaders who are both charismatic and humble, and who choose collaboration over competition, avoidance, and compromise. And I'm so excited to now introduce you to 2 such leaders whose organizations share a vision and interest in becoming real change agents and whose partnership is leading to scale. Welcome to Stephen Bethel, co-founder of Bank Vogue, and to Jenny Friedrichstrotter, Circular Business Manager at Renewcell. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
I am going to now remove myself and let you 2 take it away.
There you go. This was where our sort of general thought was to have a little brief description about who we are and what our companies do and the kind of the path that led us to where we are. And then really, we're both, Jenny are both really keen to answer questions and just create a positive conversation. Jenny, does that make sense as sort of a start of how we're going to go about this?
Yeah, definitely. That's a good start.
All right. Well, look at. Why don't I start out and let me just say a little bit about who we are and what we are. So I'm a co-founder of a company out of Ottawa, Canada, which is Bank Vogue. And Bank Vogue is, our focus is on innovative solutions to the crisis of stuff. This idea of what can we do with all the used clothes that is out there. And we've been in business for over 23 years. And our early days of set out is working with charities and private collectors to find homes for used clothes. So as many as you know, if you donate a bag of clothes to your local charity or thrift shop, they'll go through it, put 50% of it on the shop floor, only 50% of that would sell. So 75% of your donations to your local thrift store or to your local charity shop are actually sold locally. But what happens to the other 75%? And Bank Vogue is a company, we've built a business over the last 20 plus years about finding homes throughout the world for that product. And it's a real challenge to figure out where does it go and how do we best extract the value from the used clothing, from the secondhand clothes. And sort of three silos that we operate in, just to walk towards our collaboration with Renewcell is, first of all, as I said, we find homes at grading houses and sorting houses throughout the world, so that if something can't be resold domestically, can it be resold internationally? Is there another place in the world for a secondary garment so it can be reused and found another life? But then about 17 years ago, 18 years ago, we founded Beyond Retro, which is, I got my little Beyond Retro poster here. And Beyond Retro is an on-trend retailer, both out of the UK and ironically also out of Sweden. So where we run on-trend shops, where we pull out on-trend products that are relevant to the fashion of the day. And our premise with Beyond Retro was, could we make used part of the landscape, or could we participate in the landscape of fashion in the UK with Beyond Retro? And we're really proud to say that as a testament to our success, Beyond Retro's success, last week we launched in Selfridges in downtown London on Oxford Street. And if you want to talk about the best use for any secondhand garment, the most relevant use is to find reuse. So that's one of the conversations I certainly wanted to throw out. But by the fact that of Beyond Retro being in Selfridges is a testament to the opportunities in front of us with used clothes, with vintage clothes. And if something can't be reused, if it can't be resold, what does the company do with it? Well, we have an upcycling factory where we've partnered, and we talked about this last year, Kelly, with Wear, where we partnered with companies like Urban Outfitters, where we've made several collections. We have another collection just dropping now of a full collection made completely from upcycled apparel. And last year we talked about our collaboration with Converse, where we took clothes that couldn't be resold or couldn't be remade into a whole new garment. We were making and are making components for the Chuck Taylor shoe under the Renew denim. But all of that is leading us to what happens to the clothes that we can't resell. We can't resell internationally. We can't put in Selfridges. We can't turn into components. And that's when, in 2017, I'm really proud to say that we started working with and collaborating with our friends at Renewcell. And the journey and just not to preempt the conversation, but from 2017 to 2020, which we'll talk through that journey in our Fireside Chat. The first thing is it's hard work, and I just want to put out that doing something new or doing something innovative, stopping the regular business and asking all of our business elements to collaborate and work with another company is hard organizationally and hard structurally. But why don't I hold that conversation and get out of the way and let Jenny talk about Renewcell, and then we can talk about our collaboration.
Thank you, Steve. Yeah, it's 3 years since we were first in contact. Amazing how much has happened during these 3 years. Just briefly about Renewcell, we are a Swedish company, a sustain tech company based on innovation from the Royal College of Technology here in Stockholm. So our founders got the challenge of what to do with textile waste from fashion industry. And as many of you probably know, today only less than 1% of the collected and the sorted garments are going back to new fibers. So that was the area that they targeted when they founded the company in 2012. And today in 2020, we have our first plant, small plant in operation, and we are just about to build our second plant to increase the volumes. So it's been a journey, and we are working with only textile waste as our raw material. So we create a new product called Circulose. It's a dissolving pulp made from textile waste. And this textile waste comes from industry, like textile factory, cutting waste, and so on. And we also work with post-consumer garments. And here, together with Stephen, we have created a great flow. So the products that we have launched so far with Levi's and H&M are made of fibers coming from denim from Stephen's operations. So it's been a fantastic journey. And now moving forward, we plan to buy even more textile. And of course, we are a recycling company, but we are not a sorting company. So we need companies like Bank Vogue to help us to source, to collect, and to sort the garments, because we do not have these operations in-house. We buy the sorted textiles and then we recycle them in our chemical process. So it's crucial for us to have good suppliers of the textile waste, either from the post-consumer or from industry. So that's why we started the cooperation with Bank Vogue.
That's cool. I think, Jenny, we have, you're going to be smarter than me to figure out, do we have some questions already, or is there somebody that scrolled something up?
Not yet, as far as I can see. Let's see in a bit.
Yeah, I'll come back on after, and we'll just keep track of all the questions that come in. It's just somebody saying hi. I think just hi to you in the chat.
All right, fair enough.
Okay.
I, you know, sort of, it's the first thing and keep in mind, this is a fireside chat, so we're being somewhat informal here. One of the favorite books, I don't know if anybody's read this book, Guns, Germs, and Steel. I really recommend it, but it's an evolution of how about 4,000 years of humanity and how things have changed. And one of the moments in history that is mentioned in the book is the day that in Mesopotamia, assuming it was in Mesopotamia, somebody decided, hey, I'm going to stop being a hunter and gatherer. I'm going to go around and chase animals and nail them with my spear. I'm going to collect these seeds and I'm going to put them in the ground and I'm going to grow a field. And, you know, somebody had asked, well, what's really tough about innovation, or what's tough about stopping doing what you're doing and doing something completely new? And the funny thing is, I don't know, Jenny, if this makes any sense, but can you imagine the day that you know, the fellow came home to his cave and he said to his partner, look, I'm not going to go around and chase you know, the animals anymore with the other guys. I'm going to plant these little seeds in the ground and we're going to build a field. And I would say one of the hardest things to do within a company, and we're a mid-sized company, is even getting our own team to start the journey of collaboration, to say, okay, we understand this is how we've been doing things forever. We're running around chasing antelope, but actually our future is about planting crops, and somehow we need to do a little bit of what we used to do and something else. And I feel as if that only comes from being a successful hunter or gatherer, so you can migrate to being a seed producer. But I wanted to throw that first thing out, that collaboration kind of begins at home with a corporate culture to understand that you not only need to do what you're doing right now well, but you need to be able to evolve into another sort of element. And I just sort of throw that out, that having none of our innovations that Bank Vogue has been able to do wouldn't have come without the big support within cooperation and collaboration. Starts with a mindset within our own company. Hey, you know what? We need to go out and try something new and work with a new idea. I don't know if that makes any sense, Jenny.
Yeah, of course. It takes, you need to be brave to take this step. And we have been called crazy by many people in the industry, and that this is stupid and it's not necessary and so on. But we've seen that the interest from fashion industry and from consumers is great. We have a huge demand on our fibers, and the fashion industry needs to change. There is a strong development for more sustainable materials, circular economy, taking care of the waste, being mindful about consumption, and so on. So the industry is changing, but of course, to be early in this development also has a lot of challenges. But we are now proving that this makes sense. It works. It's not perfect, but we are trying to make it better and better. We are trying to find our way in a new area, which needs to be developed, of course. But you need to start somewhere. You need to be brave enough to take that first step, or to plant that first seed, to do something differently, to have a different result, of course.
Yeah, it's funny. I really like this the not perfect conversation. It's funny that in our other collaborations, but along with Renewcell, the first step we did was really tough and far from perfect, but we just started with something, and I feel like that's, in terms of like the importance of collaboration, is the theme, but I think it starts with just actually sitting down and saying, let's start something, and we know it's not going to be perfect from the outset, and it's going to be tough. Like it certainly, when you look at what the balance of the used clothing trade does, there's not a lot of companies within the secondhand clothing business that really wants to do the hard work of and have the patience to sit down with the Renewcell team to develop a new thing. I think that patience and hard work conversation is and recognizing that things will be ugly and not perfect at the start. Just being completely honest about that. I think that's a really good point about collaboration.
Yeah, I think also it's the key to collaboration, to be honest and transparent with each other, trying to solve the problems that might come. But we have the same goal and the same intention, and I think that has been the key to this successful collaboration, that we had the intention and we wanted to do it, and we found our way, and we will continue to solve the problems that might appear, because this is a changing businesses, and it's a developing area of the industry that is taking care of the textile waste that nobody else wants, more or less. And we believe it will grow because the demand is there, and there we need to grow. Bank Vogue also need to grow. We need more partners in this field to take care of all the waste that we have created as a fashion business. So there are many opportunities moving forward here to do something new and to do something great for the environment.
I read the other day that North Americans, so they won't pick on just Americans, but North Americans buy almost 500 million pairs of jeans a year. So you think about 500 million pairs of jeans. It's almost like a shocking number. Every year, 500 million pairs of jeans, and you wear them as many times as you can. If they can't be sold at the thrift store, where do they go? And you think the enormity of that opportunity. It's pretty, 500 million pairs. It's pretty exciting. But I also remember it's going back to the first days when we started in 2017. The conversation was, can you send us some samples? And I remember sending this like Ziploc bag of samples to Sweden. And if you compare it to where we started to our contract that we just signed for 30,000 metric tons of denim that will be supplying, post-consumer denim that will be supplying Renewcell. That's 3 sea containers a day, 365 days a year. It just shows that things can be wobbly at the beginning, they can be difficult, they can be a lot of work, but going back to the seed days where you had a handful of seeds, but now we have this enormous field and a real opportunity. I think is a really important part of setting out. Hey, it's going to be tough. It's going to be expensive at the early days. It's going to be some work, and will be a distraction from your normal daily activity. But if we can imagine where our trade will be to solve this problem of 500 million pairs of jeans a year that just the North American economy is buying. Forget about Europe and forget about the quick growing global textile trade.
Yeah, and not only are we buying so many pairs of jeans, in average we are only using the products we buy about 7 times for each garment, and that's shocking. So of course, of all the clothes that are rejected, most of the clothes are fully functioning clothes, and they should go into the secondhand market and be used many times before we take them. We prefer to take garments that are worn out, broken, torn, or something. They should not be fully functioning garments for the second hand. So that's one of the reasons why this cooperation with Bank Vogue is perfect, because you also provide the second-hand industry first, and what is not useful for second-hand or upcycling can come to us. Because what can be reused should be reused first, then recycling is the last resort instead of going to incineration or landfill. That's where we come in. I think this is a great, we really share your opinion here on how the flow should go.
I'm trying to be mindful of everybody's time. How are we doing on time? I know somehow my clock seems to have disappeared on Zoom here.
Yeah, I mean, we've got, a number of questions are coming in, but happy if you guys want to continue.
Yeah, let's start with, I think, just to have people join us around the fireplace. Why don't we get some questions going, Kelly?
Okay.
Yeah, start with the question. Probably we can expand some of them.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's start with this. Awesome initiative. Can you share the challenges you're facing in this type of project and how you're solving them?
Yeah, so let me start from part of the real key collaborations, and to stay away from sticking to my silo. The exciting part about the technologies that are coming, both mechanical and chemical recycling, not speaking about Renewcell, but just in general, as somebody who's trying to find homes for clothes, is that early technologies are much narrower in scope and much more refined in what they can take as an input. And the real challenge is everybody, it's funny in the Ellen MacArthur Foundation conversations, I heard once somebody describe it as, how do you unscramble an egg? Part of the problem about recycling clothes and being in the business of triaging and sorting and finding homes is, for us, the biggest challenge is this unscrambling the egg. And the early technology, the egg needs to be really carefully placed into more refined categories. And so our first part of our collaboration was to understand how the tech is today, but explain the landscape of what the profile of used clothing looks like, and nudge towards, look, this is where you are today in the tech, but this is the reality of what percentage is existing in that fold. But if you can increase it by X percent, you can get here. And if you can increase by Y percent, you can get here. So for us, the the hurdles were the ability to be able to give a feedstock that fits the existing tech, but nudge and create an open conversation with the R&D team to say, look, here's where you are today, but this is where we need to get to. And I feel like that is a very collaborative thing, because what is the feedstock? What does it look like? What might it look like? But also that conversation going back to, well, how can we actually help the designers actually design into a feedstock that is now, the tech is now able to do? If that makes any sense. I hope that answers. I don't know, Jenny, you maybe you can chime in there. Does that make sense?
That's the composition of the material and the fiber mixes. It's the biggest challenge for all recyclers, I would say, both the mechanical recycling and chemical recycling. We are, most of us, focusing on one type of fabric or material. We are working with cellulose-based material. That's our expertise. Others are working with wool or synthetic fiber. So of course, this first step in sorting the right type of material for the right type of recycling technology, that's a crucial step for all parties involved. And here the cooperation with the Bank Vogue has worked really well. We have had trials with some other suppliers where it was not as successful, where we didn't get what we were buying. And of course, this creates a huge problem for us to have, because we don't have the sorting in-house. The sorting needs to be somewhere else. And I think this is the case for most recycling companies, no matter if you work on the mechanical or the chemical recycling. So the sorting is crucial. And of course, also the logistic challenge. We have a huge amount of textile waste all over the world, but to collect it and sort it and allocate it to the right place where the recycling is taking place is really complicated. And here we get a lot of help from Bank Vogue.
What do you guys think about the like automated sortation and the future of that?
Yeah, for us it's very good. We have here in Sweden, we have one plant just opened and another smaller one in operation also. And I think this is also great, because it can, the garments that cannot be sold on secondhand market as garment, these can go to the automated sorting, and we can get the right material for us, and the synthetic recyclers can get the right material for them. So of course it will make the sorting less labor intense, and hopefully they can handle much bigger volumes with a less cost.
Yeah.
So this is part of the future, but the first sorting will probably be manual for a long time, because only a person can judge if the garment is sellable on second-hand market or not. That the machines cannot do yet, at least.
Right, yeah. And just sort of on that same topic of challenges within your collaboration, Liz wants to know, she understands that you also operate a factory in India. And so what are the biggest challenges then on that logistical or cultural triangulation?
Yeah, so I'll jump on that. And to back up on the tech sorting, I think it's really important that one of the challenges about having certain sectors come in and try and participate in the fashion business is they approach it as if we're sorting plastic bottles or cans or paper. And people talk about textile waste. I don't actually think that what Bank Vogue does is we don't move waste. We move clothing, we move apparel. And apparel is I think it shouldn't be lost on us that we all wear clothes, right? I wear these suit vests because I really like the suit vest look, or a day can't be out without a silk scarf, that apparel is a reflection of our own personalities, and that element in the reuse sector is really important. And I'm not sure that often can be solved with tech. So yeah, just sort of going back to what Jenny said, obviously there's always going to have to be some eyeballs, and there's an element there that, you know, at least in my head, I think that it will always involve a fashion eye. You can't turn the fashion eye into technology. Um, Otherwise, you know, what would happen to all these lovely stylists and designers we have? Anyhow, well, it's another conversation. In terms of India and the global world, so we have a factory in India, and have been in India since 2002. Number one, what are some of the challenges? Well, right now we can't go to India because there's a pandemic on, and we can't get on a plane and go. This is my first time in maybe 15 years that I haven't gone 4 or 5 times a year, so I'm missing going and participating in it. But I think that the exciting thing about particularly India is that it is now. It offers us as a company a place where a global amount of used textiles go into one place. So there's about 3 or 4 hubs around the world where product is now going. And this idea of a centralized area where products arrive it creates real opportunities for projects like Renewcell or projects like recycled cashmere. In that question, was a question about culture and what are the cultural challenges?
Yeah.
I actually think many of the cultural challenges would be, as I've learned going, and this is my own personal take on things. I've grown being there, and many of the challenges I may have saw in my head, I now realize are actually amazing things that maybe I should be changing my culture on the way going back home. That this idea that things are cultural challenges, it implies a bias that the challenge is in that place and not a bias with the person who goes to that place, if that makes any sense. And I personally feel like in the years that I've been going, I've grown and changed enormously, and hope that any of the employees who come from, whether it be our staff from Sweden to come or from the UK or Canada or the US, that, you know, people are people, and there are different cultures, but it's the challenges can often be from our own biases we show up. I don't know if that makes any sense, but one always have to remember that you're a guest in another place.
Yeah, right. Okay, there's so many questions, guys. This one, there's a few that come in that kind of all have a similar theme, really, around the role of brands and retailers and what they could learn from your collaboration. So there's, you know, seeing in, okay, yeah, so that's pretty much, there's sorry if you posed a question similar but different, but yeah, let's try and get your perspective on how can brands and retailers you know, play a role. And also, I know there was a question from somebody who operates a smaller business, and so wondering maybe how smaller businesses can do some pilots as well if that opportunity is available.
Well, Jenny, why don't I get out of your way here for a minute?
Okay, so we have a limited production now, but building as we are about to build a larger scale plant, we will have much more capacity in the coming years after 2022 when we have the new plant up and running. We are planning to have a production capacity of 60,000 metric tons of dissolving pulp per year. Depending on that, how this is mixed, it will be at least 60,000 tons of fiber. At the moment, we are producing viscose staple fiber out of the recycled raw material Circulose, but it can also be turned into other fibers. So, of course, we are working with the large scale brands right now, but we also have cooperations with smaller companies. And right now, we don't have a supply chain, let's say, in-house for fabrics and yarns. But if there is a smaller brand who are interested in doing something, we are open to discuss and to find if the brand is interesting enough, let's say, or if it has the right values for sustainability, we are open to discuss. And let's see when we can make this happen. For us, we can sell small amount of volumes of fiber, that's not a problem, but of course we also need the supply chain. So it's a matter of how small quantities can the spinners and weavers or knitters take on. We don't sell fabric and yarn as per today, but we might do so in future when we have a bigger capacity for production. So we are open for collaborations, big and small, but it might take a little bit of time to make them happen.
You know, it's funny. I had a conversation with, you know, I mean, keep in mind that we're in the middle of a really difficult time for a lot of fashion brands and retail in general. But it's funny that some of the brands that we've been working with have really said, is this an opportunity to try things that we wouldn't normally try because we're in the middle of a pandemic? Management probably wouldn't let us normally try things, but why don't we trial something? And my challenge to the brands would be, let's just start something. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but it's a start towards a better fashion journey. And this idea of sitting down and having 50 meetings and making the perfect plan and presenting it and then suggesting to management that this is the perfect plan that will make the perfect product. I don't think that another 50 meetings will make a perfect plan. I feel like what has to happen with the brands is they just need to start. And so I put up my hand that the collaborations that we've worked on just need to start. And so, you know, the question being, what do brands need to do in sort of really gauche language? They need to start, and not necessarily start with the idea that it has to be a perfect product or a perfect plan, because there's no such thing as a perfect plan. And the perfect start, you know, when we sent that first Ziploc bag of samples to Renewcell, it wasn't perfect. But when we now look back, and it was also expensive, but when we look back and say, well, actually now we're doing 3 sea containers a day in plan for 2021, that's where we want to go. So I don't know, Kelly, if I think that from my perspective, you know, Bank Vogue and the innovations we've done in whether it be upcycling or fiber is the collaborations that have worked well are, as Jenny said, we just said, let's sit down, let's work with purpose, let's work hard, let's recognize it's going to be tough, but let's just start.
Yeah.
So there's my conversation. Let's start.
And so what's the opportunity for brands, let's say, instead of just you know, looking at it from incorporating recycled content into their business, but what about pre-consumers, so damaged out and returned products? Is there an opportunity for brands to engage in that way in terms of providing feedstock for Renewcell?
Yes, of course, we get a lot of questions from private persons to donate one pair of jeans, and from smaller companies also. We want to work with as much waste as possible, but we need to take in larger volumes. To private persons or to very small companies, I generally suggest that they work together with their local NGO or use the recycling possibility that some of the high street retail brands provide and so on. Then in the end, we can get the material that is suitable for us. But we always want garments that can be used and recycled as secondhand first will go through that chain. And we cannot do the sorting. So the garments needs to be sorted before they come to us. That's where Steve and his colleagues in the business are very important.
So just in terms of the actual retailers though, right? So any items that they can't sell, that are offcuts, that are, you know, damaged, return trips that don't make their way back into the inventory, assuming that they understand the composition, so no sorting is needed, is there opportunity for brands to work with you on that level?
Definitely. We have taken like orders where something goes wrong, for example, they can go directly to us instead of going to incineration. So as long as we know the fiber content, for what market it was produced, the chemical content and so on, then we can work with it, definitely. So yeah, we have taken a lot of orders like this from retail brands.
Okay. And I just to jump on that point, Kelly, I think one of the things that you know, we talk about innovation and changing things and, you know, all things that should be new, but I would put out there also, there is an infrastructure, an amazing infrastructure, and let's just talk about Canada and the US for a minute, where if a garment didn't sell, it doesn't need to go to me or to a Bank Vogue. It should go to your local charity shop first. And I think one of the fears I have in the secondhand trade is that there are many brands that are discovering the real value in their product and saying, oh, we're gonna set up these silos of resale on our own. But are we questioning the effect that could have on pillaging some of the best brands from your local secondhand store or local charity shop? And many of those charities who've handled used clothes for the last 50 years are an important pillar in the community. You know, the secondhand clothing being sold at charity shops raises money within communities and it has a really important role. So I would encourage brands that if they have product that is returned or product that is, you know, that doesn't make the grade to go on the shop floor, look locally and see how you can find a second use for that product within your own community. And the amazing thing is you're going to contribute to your community enormously. And that there are hundreds of charities across the United States and Canada that do really fantastic work. I'm not handing out sandwiches at 2:00 in the morning on Saturday night. And there are charities that need your clothes that are doing that. So it's just, anyhow, I feel like they are an unsung hero that people don't talk about. I'm sorry about that.
For sure. And reuse, of course, is absolutely the most important. Like recycling is really, you know, should be the last resort, right? So just switching over now to just talk about collaboration. There's a couple of questions regarding that. Ruth wants to know, you mentioned earlier that some of your team members were reluctant to accept this challenge of collaboration at the beginning. And how did you help them to get on board with the vision?
Yeah, look, I bring it up because I think it's a journey that within Bank Vogue and beyond Retro, you know, you know, I think we have 300 employees worldwide, and the business is able to go and do innovation because it's executing on a business and it's working and it's making a revenue stream that allows a handful of us to go and look for new opportunities. And so it is both the responsibility of the innovator within the business to understand the boundaries, to make sure that innovation just doesn't overtake the business and it loses track on what is a revenue source today. But it's also a leadership point to demonstrate to the people in the business, hey, look, I know you normally do X, but I need you to do this extra 10 things in the week because it's going to help us get to Y. And I wanted to bring that up because it's not innovation, collaboration and innovation can often be really tough on a business. And so, for example, if you're normally used to taking clothes and just sorting them into piles and reselling them, well, and then you're asking people to do an extra step or an extra thing, and why are you doing this? It is a real moment in a company, and has to have a unique culture to be able to foster. I don't know if that, and it sounds really simple, but it's really complicated to carry that out well and not break your existing machine.
Right.
Does that make any sense?
Sure, sure. We've got we have so many questions. I do encourage you guys, if you could, just to scroll through the questions that are already there and like them if you can, because there's a lot of sort of overlap, and we're 10 minutes away here, and there's a lot of really great questions. These are some more technical questions that I'm going to pose to you now. So first off, we've got Marilyn, who wants to know how you deal with contaminants like zippers, rivets, and embellishments. Do you have to disassemble first, or can you extract them after shredding? A part two is the spandex, the fact that there is a lot of spandex added to denim. So how do you deal with that component in the fiber mix? And then a third sort of related question. Actually, let's just stop there.
Should I jump on this one?
Bones.
For our next plant, we will have a fully functioning system for taking care of all the rivets, buttons, and so on. All the non-textile parts will be removed by a mechanical step. We have that also in our current plant, but not as developed, let's say. When it comes to spandex or other synthetic fibers, we can remove some amount of it. Now, currently we're working with materials that are around 98-99% cotton. In the coming plant, we have a goal to be around 90% cellulose. So that means we can remove synthetics, and spandex, polyester, for example. These are the most common ones, spandex in the fabric and polyester in the sewing thread. So to some extent, we will be able to remove synthetic fibers in our process.
It's funny, Kelly, on that point, not to get too specific on the journey that we went, but I think this is the question's a really good question about the specifics of where the tech is today. Mm-hmm. But, I think part of the collaboration journey is to go back to this idea that things won't be perfect at first. So the first input that we had to Renewcell does not look like the product that we are supplying now, nor will look like the product that we'll supply later. But this idea of starting with an imperfect solution, and people going, come on, that's insane, how much work you're doing to get there. But it is the beginning of a long journey to where this thing will get to. But to start at the beginning of the journey and say, forget it, this won't work, like you're asking us to do too much, that's the opportunity where the innovator and the collaborator will go, you know what, I know this is not perfect today, I know this isn't right, but this is where we want to get to. Let's make that first step, which will get us to, 60,000 metric tons, which is, Renewcell's goal in the new plant, that scale. But we needed to start with the imperfect start of some really heavy lifting that most people would have said, you guys are bonkers.
Thank you for that. Okay, another question about Circulose specifically, and how it compares to cotton. Is it stronger? Is it better? How does it compare when wet and dry strengths? And can you, apply heavy stone washes, laser, or are there any limitations?
To be clear here, we are creating a new raw material for production of man-made cellulosic fibers. So we are using the cellulose in the textiles, either from cotton or from other man-made cellulosic fibers made So it's not going back to cotton. We are making the raw material to make man-made cellulosic fibers. Currently, we are producing in industrial scale viscose staple fibers. And viscose is viscose, it's not cotton, but we have seen, like in the cooperation with Levi's, that it's possible to replace some of the cotton in the jeans and still have a very a nice cotton-like product. But you can treat the fibers that we make with Circulose in the same way as you can treat conventional viscose. So it will never be cotton, but it will be as good as conventional viscose, but with better LCA.
And let's kind of combine a couple of questions here. Where did it go? Oh yeah, so sort of looking outside of the collaboration and sort of bringing in sort of other important roles, looking at it, I guess, from holistically speaking, you know, the first question would be from a government perspective, you know, is there policies that could really help impact, you know, the residential textile recycling and pickups of waste? And then similarly, somebody else wanted to know about the logistics that were mentioned earlier, and if, you know, there's 80% of what waste management covers North America does is logistics. Are you working with them? So just sort of like looking outside of your immediate partnership and who else might be engaged in this.
So from a collections point of view, I think that the landscape of who collects and how clothes are collected is certainly going to change. And there's like, and that's like, that's probably another 2 or 3 logs in my fire's worth of conversation. But I think things that are going to be interesting to see in the horizon is when governments put in manufacturers' responsibility for the products that they sell. How is that going to affect how things are collected? Certainly, the conversation about municipalities banning textiles from the waste stream and traditional waste haulers getting involved in the textile collection is an interesting conversation. But certainly going back to something that I'm a big believer in is also how to effectively promote the charities and support the charities, even in their ability to sell clothes, used clothes, because if they can sell it really well, they'll collect more. And I'll give you a really good example. There are some jurisdictions that offer tax-free secondhand clothes sales. There are some jurisdictions, like for example, Sweden, that is proposing an import duty on new clothing, meaning that new clothes will be that much more expensive. So used clothes creates an opportunity. I think the exciting thing, there was a paper that was just written in the UK suggesting that by 2030, 50% of the retail sales of clothes will be secondhand. And so you think about that. I'm just being somewhat of a believer that a market-driven economy will invent new ways to collect things that are there. So if the consumer demand is there for secondhand, it will be amazing how much comes out of the landfills and the closets and the opportunities. So it's a demand-based thing, but also the conversation about how things are collected, and then just as we implied, how things are sorted and where they're sorted domestically or nationally. It's going to be an interesting landscape, but it certainly will not stay stagnant, if that helps.
Yeah, I can only agree here. I think the most important thing is that the society start to look at textiles as a resource, not as a waste stream, because there are so many ways we can take care of the textiles in a better way. And this is starting to be built up in Sweden and in Europe for sure. And by having companies like ourselves that want to use this kind of textile raw material as a product. That will also create new business models within this sector to use the textile sorted and collected in a different way. So I hope this will come into place and that people avoid putting the textile in their normal trash. So we treat it as a raw material that can be reused instead.
Okay,
It's funny.
Guys, sorry to cut you off. I did have one question for each of you, and maybe you can just answer yes or no. It's sort of rapid fire style. I guess for Jenny, what is the location of the new Renewcell plant opening up in 2022?
Yeah, it's also in Sweden. It's a town called Sandviken.
Any plans to create any sort of local or North American recycling industry infrastructure?
Definitely, we have hope to have plants in all areas of the world.
Okay.
Later
So there's so many questions that we just ran out of time. Could people contact you if they have further questions? Are you okay with me sharing your email addresses when I share the recording?
Definitely, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, by all means.
There you have it. Thank you both so much. We really could have made this a couple of hours, clearly. So would love to have you both back on our series at some point later on as well. And thank you to those of you who tuned in. We do have 3 more sessions that are running today. The next one is at 10:45. Another great demonstration of partnerships that lead to scale with H&M and the Hong Kong Research Institute of Textiles and Apparel. So hopefully we'll see you there. And thanks again to Jenny and to Stephen for sharing your insights and for your leadership in circularity.
Thank you
very much. Thanks, Jenny.
Thank you,
Bye. Thanks, Kelly.
Bye.
Bye. Tack, tack.
Varsågod.